In this video, I'm going to be covering some of the most frequently asked questions that the customer experience team receives about guide rails specifically. One of the big benefits to the guide rails, while there are many options to choose from, which we're going to cover, is that all of the routing and cutting tools are compatible with the guide rails from Festool. As you can see on the table, there are 4 different guide rails, and I'm going to talk about what each one of those styles are and kind of what they're used for. Now, the different guide rails range anywhere from 250 millimeters all the way up to 3,000 millimeters. And they do come in 4 distinct configurations, and we're going to go over those. And the first is the standard, most common FS rail. The lengths that the FS rail is available is 800 millimeters, 1,080 millimeters, 1,400 millimeters, 1,900 millimeters, 2,700 millimeters, and 3,000 millimeters. The next style is the LR32 rail, and this is used specifically for the LR32 system. Now, the FS LR32 rail, the big difference that you're going to see is it has all of these different holes spaced out with 32 millimeter increments, but this comes in the length of 1,400 millimeters and 2,424 millimeters. While operation of every single tool still operates exactly the same on this rail, again, if you want to use the LR32 system, this rail is specific to that application. Next is the FS2KP. This is a newer generation guide rail, and you'll notice one big difference is that it has some slots cut out here, and those are used for different reasons, which I'm going to explain. But before I do that, I just want to make it clear that this guide rail works exactly the same as the 2 I've already shown you. Now, what you'll see is this cutout in the middle. This actually can be placed over a handle of a sustainer, making this easier to move from one room to another or one job site to another. It's a really nice way to transport it without having to carry it separately. And then we have these 2 slots here, which are used to accept these, which are adhesive-backed strips that would give you the ability to mount this vertically on a wall, horizontally on a wall, but you can stick this to whatever surface you want through use of these clips. This is going to be available in 2 different lengths, being 1,400 millimeters and 1,900 millimeters. And then the 4th option in terms of tracks is the FSK rail. Now, you'll see that this one is obviously a little bit different. This is more specialized, specifically for the HK or the HKC carpentry saws. However, the TS60 or the TSV60 are also compatible with this. Now, this does come in 3 lengths, and those 3 lengths are 250 millimeters, 420, and 670 millimeters. Now, periodically you may see something special like this. This is just an FS rail, with the exception of it being blue. Functionality is exactly the same, but from time to time, Festool will release limited edition or celebration style offerings. Obviously, they're going to be limited in quantity as well as sizes that are available. The next common question that comes through a lot is, because there's so many options, how do you select which one you need? So I like to break this down into 2 important categories. The first, really, you just need to ask yourself, what material are you cutting frequently? And I think you should pair that guide rail with what it is that you're doing on a regular basis. What I'm trying to get at is, if you're only needing it for small cuts, you may not necessarily want to go buy a 3,000 millimeter long track using it for the small cuts that you need, just in case you need the extra length. The more important consideration that you need to think about is you need to make sure that your rail is sized to allow you to fully plunge your cut to the depth that you are trying to cut prior to actually entering the cut. While these are plunge track saws, we do want to make sure that if we're making long cuts or repetitive cuts, that we want to plunge that track saw all the way down and then enter the cut with the blade already down. The next common question deals with splinter guards. Now, for those of you that don't know, one of the great things about track saws and tracks in general, and how you can achieve perfectly splinter-free, clean cuts, is because of the splinter guard. It is essentially a piece of plastic that goes on the bottom part, held on with an adhesive strip, and that then supports the material, so when you're making the cut, it doesn't allow the fibers to raise up. Now, from time to time, these need to be replaced, whether it's just wear and tear, whether it's bumping it into a work surface, and these are very, very simple to replace. Now, instead of me actually walking through step by step on how to go about replacing this, I want to point you to a wonderful resource that's available on festoolusa.com, and it is a short 2-minute tutorial on exactly how to go about replacing one of these splinter guards. The next question that comes through a lot is how to attach the guide rails together and how to do it properly. And that is done through the use of these guide rail connectors. Now, the purpose of these is to take one smaller track and another smaller track or medium-sized track, put them together, then giving you a much longer track. So in the event that you need a longer track, it's really quite easy to put them together. And here I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, the first thing you're going to notice about these is that each one of them are different. And this is the orientation that they're going to go into the tracks. So this first one is just a straight bar that's going to go into the top slot with the track facing up. And you'll see there's an indicator line right here to give you your halfway point. Once we are installed, we can then tighten down these set screws, make sure it stays right in place, and from there we can go ahead and flip this over to insert the other. With this one I want to highlight, you'll notice that there's these slots, and the way that this one works, and to help ensure that each one of the tracks aligns perfectly, is through the use of these slots. When you tighten these screws down, they're going to expand that joint, making sure that everything lines up perfectly and also holds it nice and secure. Same thing applies with this. We can go into the halfway mark where that indicator line is, and then we're able to tighten this down until it is nice and tight in place. And once we have our first two bars installed, we can go slide our other rail and bring it in. Now, one thing that is recommended is to ensure that you leave a small gap in between the two rails in the event that there's been any damage to the end of your rails during storage and they may no longer be square, so we just leave a small gap. Once we do that, we can tighten down our two set screws, flip over our track, and tighten down to the other. And now we have two rails that are perfectly in alignment with one another, giving us double the length to help tackle your really long cuts. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful, and if you guys want to find out more, be sure to visit festoolusa.com. See you in the next video.